What's up, Thrashers, and welcome back once again to the Thrash Maniac 99 YouTube channel, and I am back with probably, for this week, the most anticipated album for me to come out on the 9th of September, personally, and I had just been waiting for this album since the first single dropped back in early July, and the other two singles we've had since were kick-ass, so I am here to talk about the 8th studio full-length album from arguably the best supergroup in heavy metal history, and that is, of course, Bloodbath, with Survival of the Sickest. Don't need to go into a history lesson about Bloodbath, because I feel everybody that's watching this should know who the hell Bloodbath are, but short, sweet history lesson. Started off with members of Opeth, Edge of Sanity, and Catatonia, forming a death metal supergroup to play death metal in the vein of bands like Entombed and Dismember, but with some American death metal. And then over the years, you've had members come in and out from bands like Hypocrisy, Craft, Ghost, currently Paradise Lost, and Like, among so many other great bands with members that have come and gone in Bloodbath over the years. But with all that said, let's get into the album itself. So we kick things off with the first single in the track that got me pumped for this album, Zombie Inferno. I love this melodic, ominous guitar intro we get before it just punches you right in the face with thrashy death metal fury, very much in the vein of classic Swedish death metal like Entombed, Dismember, but also very much in the vein of bands like Vader and Early Death. And that's pretty much the vibe you get all throughout this track. The verses stay thrashy and brutal, and the chorus, while it's simple and direct lyrically, just saying Zombie Inferno a bunch, but the tremolo riff you get in there is so fucking brutal, and the hammer-on parts you get after the first chorus were so tasty. And the lead work on this track, shred-tastic. Even the breakdown groove on this track was really sweet with another great riff of brutality. And like I said, a good chunk of the song, like the thrashiness, reminds me of Entombed and Dismember, but also Early Death and Vader, and that's pretty much the vibe throughout the whole song. Then we get to Putrefying Corpse, which has the first of 3 guest vocalists on the album, and that's Barney Greenway from Napalm Death appearing on here. Starts off with some brutal tremolo riffs and diarrhea blast beats. If you don't know what a diarrhea blast beat is, watch 66 Samus's video about blast beats and you'll know what it is. But yeah, that's how we start this track, and then it turns into a hardcore groove pretty much throughout the remainder of this song, especially in the verses and the chorus. The bridge is where you hear Barney come in, and he sounds angry and pissed off. And how appropriate he comes in on the bridge where you get this D-beat stomp going on. And then the leads you get here, you start off with a tapping atmospheric lead, then it gets into a D-beat stomp, then you get a shredding lead that follows. But the vibe of this song with that hardcore groove kind of reminds me of Bolt Thrower, or even some modern bands like Gatecreeper and Frozen Soul to a degree. Then you get to Dead Parade. Starts off with a doom riff, which is not like anything we've heard so far up to this point. Doom riff with some atmospheric guitar squeals, and that doom vibe is so oppressive, and it continues through the verses. The pre-chorus gets into an evil groove, and then the chorus itself stays doomy but adds more sinister nature to it. Suddenly, a Celtic Frost groove comes in out of nowhere, which was really cool on the bridge. The lead you get on this track has more feeling and melody going for it, which was really cool. So already, 3 songs in, 3 completely different lead sections. And this track with that doominess, I would say, aside from towards the end when you get a blast beat and some thrash moments, this song kind of was like what Hooded Menace I would have seen right, or what could have been a Hooded Menace song, I should say. Man, grammar problems much? Yes, there are problems in my brain. But anyways, then we get to Malignant Maggot Therapy. Hyperspeed, thrash intensity immediately. Then it settles into a groove on the verses. However, the chorus brings back that thrashiness. And then you get 2 different, well, not 2 different leads, but 2 lead sections on here that do pretty much the same idea. And that's combining melody, taps, and squeals. But the groove you get on the bridge is quite nasty before it gets back to a brief doom moment. But the song overall as a whole kind of felt like Bloodbath paying homage to Cannibal Corpse to some degree. Whether they would admit that or not, it kind of sounded like it, to me at least. Then you get to the song Carved, which was the second single and the first of 2 songs to feature Luke LeMay from Gorguts on guest vocals. However, I will say that this and the following song, Born Infernal, I mean, unless Luke's doing like duetting growls with Nick, you can't really hear Luke LeMay on either of these songs, which sucks because he has a great growling vocal. Oh yeah. Excuse me on that. But anyways, back to the song Carved. Immediately into the verses with it. Wow, hiccups. Right away into some evil riffs, and man, those riffs just deliver so much punch in the beginning. And the chorus, while it's direct with the lyrics, there's some like little tremolo lines. The riff is still catchy, delivers great hooks, and even in the second and third choruses, you get blast beats in there. And then you even get some more of the D-beat grossness attached. The breakdown on this song, sinister and nasty while the lead is going down with some squealing melodies to fit the atmosphere of the song itself. And really that sinister brutality of this track reminds me of Immolation, Incantation, and even Autopsy at certain spots on this song. And then Born Infernal, again, Luke's vocals, unless he's in tandem with Nick, they're buried. Starts off with an evil atonal riff, which immediately made me think of Immolation, but it has a gruesome groove going for it. The verses bring in blast beats, but stay in a groove, and then the chorus is direct, short, and sweet to the point. Suddenly, a hardcore build-up happens, followed by more diarrhea blasts, and then suddenly out of nowhere you get a riff and beats that feel like Opeth. Like as if they're saying, hey, we remember our good friend Michael and we love Opeth. Let's have an Opeth moment here for Michael. It felt like, at least. Then we hit a section that again feels like Immolation, but also has a little Morbid Angel vibe going for it. And then the leads on here are more to provide atmosphere in the background of all of the chaos that's going on. And despite it being roughly a 4-minute song, arguably the most progressive song on here because it doesn't follow a standard format, and there's so many different changes happening. So I would argue maybe the most proggy song of the album, despite it only being 4 minutes. Then we get to the song To Die, which features Mark Grew from Morgoth on vocals. Morgoth, bit of an underrated death metal band from Germany. Catchy riff and groove starting us off here. The verses pretty much keep that vibe going so tastefully. And the chorus, while it's simple and direct, it's impactful as you get Mark and Nick alternating a line on the chorus. And Mark Grew's vocals, at least back in the early days of Morgoth, felt like a hybrid of Chuck Schuldiner, John Tardy, and Martin Van Drunen. Here, he sounds closer to John Tardy nowadays, which is still cool, but yeah, I just thought that was a little funny. It's almost like, wait, are we sure it's Mark Grew, or is this John Tardy? But I digress. Cool, shredding, quick-fire lead comes in for a moment. Then the mood suddenly changes to a doomy breakdown in the build-up to an atmospheric lead with cool melodies. Affliction of Extinction, evil riff that goes back and forth with the D-beat at the beginning. The verses change up that riff a little bit, but stays in a groove, while the chorus brings back the opening riff and D-beat from the start. And I love the little atmospheric moments you get on this track. Like, there's definitely more atmosphere going on this album as a whole, but especially on this track. Another brutal Morbid Angel-inspired moment with the double bass work and the riff work. Slight thrash break we get in the middle before things turn dark, and like Nick's growl, it's creepy to begin with, but he gets extra creepy on this song as he leads us into another wonderful atmospheric melodic lead. Tales of Melting Flesh, thrashy energy immediately with a shredding lead to follow. The verses, they're short but packed with groove. The choruses start off thrashy and ends with groove. Another shredding lead pops in out of nowhere. Then out of nowhere you get a Middle Eastern inspired sitar part that almost feels like Nile a little bit. And then that happens before you get a hell unleashing breakdown. And then the song ends with like this creepy horror ambience lullaby. I don't know what the fuck you call it. Then we get to Environside, marching riff and blast beat to feel as aggressive as possible. And then you get thrashy, energetic verses, and the chorus brings back that marching riff and blast to make a statement. Doomy breakdown with pinch harmonics and sinister atmosphere. And then the lead on here, again, starts off with great atmosphere, then it turns into squealy chaos, and ends with melodic squeals, if there's such a description. But you get one more lead towards the end, and it's harmonized, which was different compared to the rest of the album. And then you get to the final song, and maybe the best song of the album. I don't know, it's between this and Zombie Inferno for me, but it goes to show you, this album has the best opening song and the best closing song of any album this year so far. No God Before Me. Doom and Morbid Angel Worship right out of the gate. And it stays that way all throughout. The verses and the chorus keeps that going, but the chorus gets epic with the progressions, the ambience, and some faint clean vocals from Nick, which you never heard clean vocals on a Bloodbath album prior to this, so definitely something unique for this song and album, and for Bloodbath as a whole. The riff that comes in after the second chorus that leads into a great lead section. Just gross, nasty, evil, and then the lead on here, one of the more feeling and meaningful leads of the entire album. And overall, this song, it was basically Morbid Angel's God of Emptiness Part 2, and it's brilliant. Feels like an appropriate sequel to a early 90s classic death metal tune. But overall, like, the influences you get on here, it's still very much Bloodbath with that, like, worshipping of old school death metal. Songwriting-wise, it feels like they were trying to combine every moment of their career, from their early days to the middle era to the more recent stuff. You know, you get the atmospherics of, say, The Arrow of Satan is Drawn, but with like the thrashiness of Resurrection Through Carnage and Grand Morbid Funeral, but with some of the more oppressive brutality from like Nightmares Made Flesh and The Fathomless Mastery, but with some new tricks thrown in, like more doom-laden stuff, as well as faint clean vocals on the closing track. And I just love all the old school band influences they draw from on here. Entombed, Dismember, Autopsy, Morbid Angel, Immolation, Death, Vader, Bolt Thrower, even Celtic Frost, Opeth. It's just all over the fucking map. And everything, I feel, was done perfectly. Even the production was great. Maybe the bass could have been turned up just a little notch, but the bass is prominent on here. Just wish maybe in the mix it could have been turned up just by a little notch, and I think it would have made this album sound even better. While this may not be the best Bloodbath album, it's hard to top the first three in my mind. But this could go neck and neck with, say, Resurrection Through Carnage. Like, hands down, the best Nick Holmes album by a landslide, and one of the best albums Bloodbath has ever done. Call me nuts, but I don't give a shit. This is a 10 out of 10. I fucking love this album. Can't wait for the physical copy to arrive here in a couple of days. This album is just nasty, it's evil, it's brutal, melodic at times, old school. Kudos, Bloodbath. I don't know if it's my album of the year yet. I have to go back later in like late November, early December, and re-listen to all the high-scoring albums I talked about and see where I stand. But right now, this is a hell of an album. Check it out if you haven't already. If you've slept on Bloodbath for a while, this is not a bad place to come back to. This is a brilliant album. But of course, that's just my opinion. What do you guys think of Survival of the Sickest by Bloodbath? Let me know in the comments section below. And until next time, horns high, and see you guys later. Well, after we got done eating, we're on our car ride, and look at this fucking shit.
Look at this bus! Where are you going, sir? I rode the bus here when I was little, and the bus route doesn't even go up this road. It's supposed to go around. What are you doing, sir? Big doors, small doors. You want to buy a door? We'll sell you a door. We only sell doors. We're Door Incorporated. We only sell doors. What the fuck is my life come to? I'm never gonna live it down because Johnny Benson has ruined me. Financially, mentally, physically. Johnny Benson, dude. If you're out there, Johnny, this one's for you.